Hey, this is Ramon, Channels Alpha 4, and you're either listening to this as a new video or you're seeing this at the tail end of my previous video where I made a little error in one of the things that I was saying. So I thought I'd take this time to actually use it to explain a little bit about Sephardic Jews and a little bit about the repression of the indigenous people in Latin America. Oh, doesn't that sound fun? So let's start off with the basics. First off, I accidentally said Queen Elizabeth. She would have been Queen of England. I meant to say Queen Isabella I of Castile in Spain. Okay? And the reason why this stuff is important, while it's important to talk about the conversos and the Reconquista and the Inquisition, is because if you don't acknowledge these things, anti-Catholic sentiment can build up. And in Latin America, as late as 1992, there were still active persecutions against Catholics. Where wearing Catholic items or saying bless you or adios, which is with God, could get you jail time. And where priests were killed as martyrs. In fact, from 1926 to 1929, the Castero War or Castero Rebellion was going on. And in fact, whenever you read about the Mexican rebels, that's actually what's being referenced here. The people who were swept up in these movements, not just in Mexico, but in all of Latin America, were Marxist and socialist. And they were rebelling against the colonialism of Spain and Portugal by attacking the church and its believers, because they believed that the power of the state laid in the power of the church, which from my point of view is a mistake, but you read Marx and you can see where that's going to happen. Read the Communist Manifesto, it's in there. You'll see where these ideas come from. So what they ended up creating was a Prataranto system. They viewed things such as the Requirimiento as justification for their persecution of Christians. In fact, in countries like Ecuador, Colombia, and Cuba, we've all seen this with La Violencia and with communism in Cuba. These all started as anti-Catholic movements and then became anti-national movements, where they would tear down the government. In a response to these movements, Catholics, Hispanic Catholics specifically, what we ended up getting was a thing called liberation theology, which is much maligned by traditionalists, which was a way to try to merge or marry the two movements. It didn't really work too well, although it's still somewhat popular in Mexico and in Latin America. So anytime you hear rebels or you hear guerrillas or any of that, that's what's being talked about. These are anti-Catholic movements that go around killing people who profess to be Catholic. It's not that simple. There's politics, there's drug money, there's a whole lot of other stuff involved. But it's a very dark scene. And when we don't acknowledge these things, all that shadow, all that rage just boils under the surface. I can remember when I was in college and I was taking a Latin philosophy class, that as soon as they found out I was Catholic, I would get a lot of resentment. And that resentment was from them reading all this stuff. Like they would read about Che, and they'd read about all these dictators, and they would end up taking the dictator's side, and they would go against the religious side because of what they viewed as the Catholic Church taking advantage of the indigenous people and taking away the indigenous people's traditions and religions. It doesn't matter how much you try to explain to them that no, that wasn't the church, that those were individuals who were acting on their own or were acting on behalf of their government, not the church. It doesn't matter how many times you say that. That anger is real. So when I say that we need to deal with this because it's a real issue, it is a real issue and it is still present in Hispanic communities. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to talk about with the Sephardic Jews and with the reason why it's important to mention, both for the Jewish population and for the Hispanic population that has to deal with, because a lot of Hispanics have both Spanish and native blood. That's mostly what we are. I mean, most Hispanics are part Spanish and then part native. That's just the breakdown. Sometimes we're called mestizo, which is kind of a bad word, but it is what it is. And for instance, right now I look a little pale, but get me out in the sun and I started getting very dark. And like my mother's family. I started looking very much like my mother's family. I get very dark because they're very tall and hairless. This is from my dad's side. But anyway, okay, so that's it. Hope that covers it, and I hope that's a good correction. So Queen Isabella the First of Castile in Spain is what I meant to say. And as for the citizenship, being able to reclaim your citizenship in Spain happened in 2017. Some of those lists are no longer active, but you can go see the documents and you can see a long list of names. In fact, I was debating taking a picture of one of those and putting it on here. I decided not to for privacy reasons, but that is what it is, man. And you can go look these up, and Ancestry.com has a good list of Sephardic ancestry. It's not as detailed as the list you'll get from, like, if you're trying to like regain your citizenship, but it'll still tell you a very horrific story of things that happen because of stuff like that. Even though, that guy's my homie. But anyway, peace, like, subscribe, and I like Don Quixote. I mean, that's Don Quixote. That guy's fictional, but he represents real conquistadors, Anyway, peace, like, subscribe. Talk to you later.